a specialist guest telling us things we don't know about, telling us things we have never done, things we have never seen and will never do. They're a specialist guest telling us things we don't know about, telling us things we have never done, things we have never seen and will never do. They're a specialist guest telling us things we don't know about, telling us things we have never done, things we have never seen and will never do. Talk in your ear and tell you all the things that I've done, baby girl, baby girl. Let me talk in your ear and tell you all the things I've achieved.
What?
Yeah. I just got panicky about the lifeboat man.
Mark.
Yeah, so we're talking to someone who's a lifeboat man. Did you call them lifeboat men?
Well, you said lifeboat man, like a...
Lifeboatman.
lifeboat man.
Lifeboatman. Where's your cap?
Oh, shit.
Fucking hell. Joe's not wearing his lifeboatman cap.
Right. This is not a joke. I've had an RNLI cap on and off for about 30 years. Like, I'll have one, I'll lose it, I'll buy a new one. And I've never seen this one. I've always gone traditional.
What is a lifeboatman or woman?
What do you mean?
I don't know. I was just making sure that I know what they are.
It's someone who works for the RNLI, and
Yeah.
there's usually like mostly volunteers. There's a few permanent staff members, and they are on call to basically go rushing out to sea.
They're the ambulance men and women of the sea. Yeah? Is that right?
Yes, basically. I was thinking, yes. But they rescue, don't they? They have right, this is weird. You know when you record audio on QuickTime?
Bloody hell! I thought you were going to give me a lifeboat anecdote.
No, you know when you and it shows you the volume of it.
Yeah,
Mine hardly moves with this new mic.
Great, great stuff. Fucking hell! So and they rescue people that. Now this is weird. Oh, right, leaning into
in
his mic.
1842.
Yeah, exactly.
The first lifeboat. Anyway.
Oh no.
Yeah, they rescue people, don't they? And they have.
Yeah, I
first
didn't know
aid.
what they were. I knew exactly what they were.
Yeah, but Mike is on the Thames.
No.
Yeah, he does. He's one of the I think there's only like 2 or 3 on the Thames.
Sorry, we've got a message from Andy Goldstein and it's a recorded message. So it could be from anyone, like a Eubank or so. Anyway, that's a different. Could be Chris Eubank. It could be literally anyone.
We've almost talked about the RNLI. Almost. I know. I really want to click it now.
No.
Yeah, he's at Chiswick, so he's on the Thames, and there's Central. There's more of a central one as well, and then there's.
So he rescues people on the Thames.
Yeah, like rowers and stuff like that.
What do you want to know?
I want to know how it fits in with his life. I've always thought this one thing, which is a bit weird.
God, I don't.
What?
I said, God, I don't.
You don't want to know how it fits in with his life?
No, I want to know who and what he's rescued.
Okay, I want to know how it fits in with his life. There's one thing I want to know as well. Can you have when you're on call and you're at home, can you have a glass of wine? No, then I'm happy for the interview to stop.
On Twitter, I follow this Twitter account called Fascinating or something. It's quite good.
Is it fascinating?
Yeah, they sort of come up with. Let's see if I can find it. But it is linked to what we're.
Why are you looking at fascinating?
It's about some guy who, in his boat. Here it is. Harrison O'Kaney spent 60 hours underwater in darkness after his boat capsized 20 miles off the coast of Nigeria and sank to the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, did he have air in the boat?
He was discovered alive by divers who were sent to recover dead bodies.
So the boat must have kept some air in the hull or something?
Yeah, there's a picture of him. I'll send it to you. That's quite mad, isn't it? Bottom of the ocean. Oh, you don't know what's around the corner.
Who took that?
That's true. Who took the fucking photo at the bottom of the ocean? Is Harris Akina a bullshitter?
I'd also like, yeah, because he's not taking
Actually, maybe the divers. Fucking hell,
you
the
don't
divers.
come up and go,
Yeah, but maybe they had a camera on their wetsuit.
yeah.
God, imagine that. Anyway.
He's got lots of admin around him, hasn't he?
I don't feel like I'm fully relaxed.
Hello, Mark. Oh,
we can't hear you, Mark.
Can't hear you, Mark.
Which is absolutely perfect for this podcast.
You have now got 15 minutes to...
How's that?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
one extreme to the other.
Am I coming through loud and clear or too loud or too clear?
No,
it's great.
It's great. Pin sharp.
Yeah.
Pin sharp. I've got an interface. This isn't my first rodeo. It's my
Is it
second.
not? Oh, who's?
No.
Who else have you spoken to?
No. I do like cheesy voiceovers and stuff. So I got a little voiceover
You got one of these type things.
What, one of these type things?
Yeah.
It's exactly what I've got. A Scarlett Focusrite interface.
Yeah. So does your mic go? Well, how do you attach? Shouldn't be doing that. Fucking hell! I genuinely want to know how you attach it.
So what you do is you attach the back of that into the computer, like
so that goes into
one of these leads into the Fire Thunder stick or whatever, and then you just put your mic lead into the front here,
right?
And you adjust the knob to the type of gain that you need, to how loud you need it to be, and then you're sort of off and running.
Why is that better than a USB? Well, not because better, but why?
This thing's got a preamp in. I mean, how bored would you like to be?
Please carry on. I'm enjoying it.
These mics have got two capsules, and they basically work together using electricity. And these boxes can start the capsules moving.
Out.
Yeah.
How do you know this? How do you know that there's two things in a mic that bob up and down?
Because I'm a recording musician, I suppose, and you've got two of them side by side.
Why have I? I don't even know what they do.
You were going to send me one, weren't you?
Yeah.
Would
you recommend me using it rather than a USB?
I mean, you sound perfect now, but this will just make you sound ultra great and polished. But it depends how polished you want it to be.
I want to sound really polished.
Are you in London, David?
No, I'm in Devon.
Oh right. Oh, whereabouts?
Near Totnes.
So I lived in Exmouth for about 10 years.
Where is Exmouth?
Do you know Exeter? So if you go Exeter to the coast, like down the River Exe, it's like the nearest.
Oh, okay. Near Topsham?
Exactly, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, right, lovely.
Yeah, it's the town between Topsham and Exeter, basically.
I'm looking at Exmouth on the map. Yes.
Nice.
Exeter's down the River Exe.
How long did you live there for?
About 10 years or so. I was born and raised in London. And then for basically secondary school, it got a bit rough in London. My mum was a teacher, and in the course of sort of a week, she got threatened with a pistol, a starting pistol, a knife, and a kosh. So my dad was like, "Do you know what? We're just going to move." So we did. He changed offices with his job, and we moved down to Devon basically for secondary school. And then
what was that in the 90s? Is that the 90s?
Yeah, early 90s. That would have been. Yeah.
Wow. So where did you go to school? In Exmouth?
So I actually went to Sidmouth College, which is just along the coast. So we sort of lived in Exmouth near the seafront, near the lifeboat station, hence my obsession with lifeboats.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is that where your RNLI affiliation?
Yeah. So we were proper close to the lifeboat station. We used to go down and watch them train, watch them launch, and all the rest of it. And it was beautiful. It was really.
So as a kid, you liked it or wanted to be one, and now you are.
Yeah. So we went on. So before I was 10, I guess I was like 5 or so. We went down to Exmouth and saw the lifeboats train and launch, and then got handed out pamphlets and stuff, and became like a fan club member. They used to have something called the Storm Club, storm force for like kids, and they'd invite you to open days. And we went to an open day in Lyme Regis and then one in Poole, and we watched them exercise and we watched them go fire around in blue lights in big, powerful boats. And I was like, that's wicked. That's really good fun.
Yeah. God, my boys would bloody love that.
Yeah.
They'd love it.
Well, absolutely. Next time you're in town or next time you're in London you're around sort of West London or whatever, I guess you'd come in this side, wouldn't you? Come to Chiswick and we'll get you out on a boat. We'll show them around it. They put life jackets on and
So Joe said you're on the Thames.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
Basic question. Do you rescue people who have,
Rowing and things. I said rowing when I don't know what I said today.
rescue rowers?
Yes.
No, do you
Well,
rescue people? You rescue people on the Thames then?
Yeah, so that's bizarrely enough, people think that, like coastally, what's busy? I guess Dover is super busy, Poole's very busy, all those places that are beautiful seaside places are always busy. But the two busiest stations in the whole of the RNLI network and probably Europe as well are on the Thames.
No.
Their Tower lifeboat station, which is at Waterloo Bridge, it's temporarily moved because they fitted it up, and us at Chiswick. And I volunteer at both those two stations, predominantly Chiswick. And they're the two busiest stations. So Tower last year had over 700 shouts. Chiswick had 255. So it's by far the busiest two stations in the RNLI network. And it runs the gambit from everything. So it's a commercial river. So you get power boats, you get clippers, you get commercial vessels.
What's the clipper? What's a clipper?
So a clipper is basically a river taxi, the Uber boats, basically. Yeah, they go from stop to stop the entire length of pretty much the commercial part of the river. So you've got loads of traffic. They break down. Boats need tows. It's a really tidal river, so anybody that ends up in it gets swept away at about 6 knots. Now, an Olympic swimmer swims about 6 knots, and that's the strength of the tide. So if you end up in the water, it's not buoyant like the sea is, because it's not salt water, it's brackish towards the estuary part. And people go in if they've just
hang on, can we do this in detail? I've gone to a boat party, I'm hammered, I'm mucking around on the boat, I fall in. What happens to me?
Somebody would hopefully see you fall in, and if they cared enough about you, they'd raise the alarm, and the skipper would get on the radio and send out. How long
have I got before I'm
It
down
depends
the river?
on. It all depends on so many things. I mean, if you go in by a bridge, because that 6 knots of tide is firing in, if you get swept into an eddy, so if you imagine that the bridge stanchions are holding like this, are holding up like this, and that water's firing at 6 knots past that bridge. Yeah. When it gets to the other side, there's a void.
Yes, you can see it, can't you? There's like a triangle of water that I guess
I'm absolutely loving this.
So if you fall off that bridge and you fall into that void, or you get swept around the bridge and you fall into that void, you just get churned around and around and around and around. And
what does that mean, churned around? Like just
well, you'll get sucked under by the force of the current, and even the strongest swimmers, we've had people. We had, unfortunately, towards the end of last year, a lady, was despondent, jumped off the bridge in an attempt to take her own life, and a guy who was a champion swimmer in his youth, really, really strong swimmer, jumped in to save her. Oh, no. She managed to cling onto a buoy, and he got sucked under and died. And unfortunately, because of the nature of the tide, it changes a few times a day. So it's either flooding in or ebbing out. And it's only when that tide changes and those eddies let go, so to speak, that a body will float up, or it might get trapped under a pier or trapped under a barge, or unfortunately hit by one of the commercial vessels. So it really is an insanely dangerous river. People.
Is this happening every day, this sort of incident?
Every single day, yeah.
And so when you're on call, like if you're down in Torquay or whatever, you've got like not much, you've got probably quite quiet shifts as well as stuff happening. But in London, you're going in, you're going, right, we're going out. More than likely we're going out.
Yeah. So one of the RNLI basically, as an organisation, is a pager organisation. So you'd be in your house, I'd be in my house, and then all of a sudden a 999 call comes into the Coast Guard, and they'll press the button on the pages, and then everybody who's near that station will fire towards that station and launch the boat. Now, because London is so busy, and because there are so many incidents, the Tower, Gravesend, and Chiswick on the Thames are one of only 5 or 6 stations that are manned full time, because the response is time critical. We need to be launched within 90 seconds because somebody enters the water there, and they haven't got long. And so what we do is we're crewed 24/7. So we do shifts of 12 hours. So we do either 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, a day shift, or 7 p.m. till 7 a.m, a night shift. So there's always a team of 4 people ready to go as soon as the bell goes.
So if you do like an evening thing, you might have to, evening shift, you might have to work there the next day. You just have to kind of factor in, you might be.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So if you're good at managing your diary, so my job takes me sort of all over the place, and you might be making an album or you might be on tour with somebody, but in the downtime, I can just look at my diary and see which days are free and go, okay, I could do a shift there. I can block out that 12 hours, and I can do a shift there and block out that 12 hours. And when you're doing a night shift, because obviously people have work, normal civilians that have got day jobs have work the following day. When that happens, we've got bunk rooms. So the idea is just like a fire station. If you're in for a night shift, you get in 7 o'clock, make yourself something to eat, maybe go out and exercise, do some training on the water, and then come back and get your head down in the bunk room. And of course, if the bells go in the night, then you're out of your bunk and you're on the water straight away.
It's mad.
But,
what's the most common time to be called out?
It's unfortunately there is zero commonality to any of it. It's not that Sundays are busier than Mondays. It's not that Wednesday night is a busy night. There are a few nights. So you can pretty much guarantee that New Year's is going to be busy. You can guarantee that Christmas Day and Boxing Day is going to be busy, because people get very despondent around those times.
No.
Unfortunately, incidents sort of go up. But really, as to I've had Saturday nights where it's been like, okay, it's Saturday night, it's the World Cup final, it's this, it's that, it's going to be a super crazy night, and we just sit in the station twiddling our thumbs. And then you can go on a Tuesday daytime and you can get 4 calls. Somebody on a houseboat's had a cardiac arrest, or two boats have collided in the Reach and one of them sinking, or boats on fire. There's just no rhyme or reason to any of it.
And how do you feel like when the alarm goes, and what do you get? Do you get like a message saying the type of incident it is, or what happens?
So we've got a bell which is attached to a hotline to the Coast Guard. So when you ring 999 and say, "Oh look, I'm at Putney Bridge and a boat's just capsized and there's a bunch of people swimming around it," the Coast Guard will scramble us. We'll basically press his button and it comes straight to our station, and he'll get us on the way. So we're straight away headed towards the destination. So in this instance, Putney Bridge. And then when we're on the way, we'll get a rough briefing. Okay, we had a 99 on our radios. We've had a 999 call saying that a bypasser has seen this boat go over and there's 4 people swimming around. So we'll get to the scene as quickly as possible, kind of get briefed on the way. And then on the way, the team on the boat will come up with a plan. Okay, so the tide's coming in, so they're going to be coming towards us, or the tide's going out, so they'll be going away from us. And there's a bridge near there, so we need to be careful that, or there's a clipper stop, so there's a Uber taxi coming in, a boat taxi, so there's lots of water traffic there. You're making all these decisions in your head when you're on the way there. And then when you're on scene, you do an on-scene assessment, you hopefully get the people out of the water, and everybody goes home for tea and biscuits.
From the moment that person has rung 999, how long has it taken for you to get to the scene?
So we can get anywhere on our patch in 15 minutes. So the idea is...
And your patch is, so starting to Chiswick, going west up to where, and east to where?
So we go outbound, i.e. towards the sea, downriver into central London, up to sort of Battersea Bridge, maybe Albert Bridge. Do you know Albert Bridge?
Yeah.
Battersea Albert Bridge.
It's quite a distance.
That's quite a distance, yeah. And the other way, we come out of Chiswick, and if we turn right and go inbound or upstream, we go up to sort of Richmond Lock.
Okay, shit. So it's quite a...
But then, of course, if one of our flanking stations, say if Tower is doing an incident, is looking after an incident at Tower Bridge because something's happened there, and somebody rings and goes, somebody's jumped into the water outside the O2, then one of the flanking stations, i.e. us, will pick that call up. So although they're kind of the parameters we work in between, all the way from Richmond up in the west down to sort of Battersea, Chelsea in the east, or east of us, they're not.
You can go a lot further.
They're not defined parameters as such.
And do you have different types of boat that you can go out? Because a lot of lifeboat stations have different sizes, don't they? I guess for going out to sea distance and stuff. Do you have one type of boat on there?
So on the Thames, we've got a very Thames specific boat called the E-Class. So it's a jet boat, and that's really, really handy because they operate in very shallow water. Because instead of having propellers at the back, they work like a jet ski. So they suck in water through the bottom of the boat, and then they fire it out of the jets at the back, just like a jet ski. So it means that there's nothing grinding on the floor, which is great because it means if you're picking people up, they're not going to get mashed up by propellers. And also it means that you can operate in much shallower water, because the Thames tidal range is about 7 meters on springs. And further up the river towards Syon Park, towards Brentford, we're operating in a foot of water. So if we have to fly through that at low tide, it's imperative that A, we know where we're going and we know which sort of channel to take that's going to be the deepest, and B, that we've got that jet boat so it's not going to grind over stones or the bottom of the river and disable the boat. But those jet boats are Thames specific. There's 4 of them or 5 of them.
And is that the only boat you use?
That's the only boat we use, yeah.
Right.
On the exception of actually coming up this weekend is the boat race, the Oxford and Cambridge boat race.
Oh, is it this week? Oh, is it? Right. Okay.
That's this weekend. That's Sunday. So it runs all the way through. That runs all the way through Chiswick, basically, right past our station. And in addition to those 2 main jet boats that we've got, we're going to have 9 little ribs. So they sort of 3-man ribs, and each of them will be stationed at equal distances around the corner of the course. So we got line of sight of the whole thing. So we can radio. We've just seen somebody go in over there.
You're on the water from certain time. You're basically is it Saturday or Sunday they do it?
It's Sunday, yeah. Saturday's like a practice run, and then Sunday's the one that's televised, yeah.
So you'll be on the water all day, basically, making sure.
That's exactly it, yeah. Making sure that people are safe.
If I fell in the water, just take any part of the Thames, how long have I got?
Well, it depends on loads of factors. It depends on the tide. It depends on how strong a swimmer you are. And also, you might have heard of cold water shock. Maybe not. Yeah. Not everybody has. Yeah. So cold water shock is, have you ever jumped in the shower and somebody's turned a tap on, it's freezing cold, and you've ended up in the shower, and it's, what's the first thing you do?
Usually scream.
Yeah.
Scream, right? But before that scream, you do this.
Oh, yes.
You're taking that inhalation of water. Now, if you fall in the water, and it's a very, very cold river, and you fall in the water and you're underneath the water and you take in that involuntary gasp.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah. So you've already sort of losing the battle. And you know, if you don't drown or you're able to get to the surface to take another breath, that's cool. But that cold water shock as well, all the blood rushes to your organs in your body away from the surface to try and keep them warm, and that can bring on aneurysms and strokes and heart attacks if your heart isn't very strong. You can get hypothermia.
Mark, last summer we started jumping in the River Dart.
Oh right, yeah.
Is that safe? It's fucking cold.
It's really cold, and provided you've got other people around you who can raise the alarm, provided you know what to do, we're not out to yuck anyone's yum. Have a good time, enjoy, but make sure that you take a method of cooling with you. So if you went to the River Dart on your own and took all your clothes off without a mobile phone and jumped in, that would probably not be very smart. But if there's a group of you who are capable and able to swim and, raise the alarm, and you enter the water slowly, if you're going to do something like that, enter the water slowly,
right?
Acclimatize yourself, get used to it, and then maybe check that the area is safe. And then maybe you can have a bit more adventure after that. That would probably be.
I imagine you don't hurl yourself in, David. I imagine you're looking at all factors while you're diving in. I think David's probably wind direction and so on are all taken in. I can't imagine you just go, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. River Dart's very nice. The River Dart Country Park. We used to go there as little.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your station featured? Because I remember I'm a big. I love the
Twat.
big. We'll edit that out, Mark. Don't worry. We'll make sure I look like a clever clogs all the way through.
Yeah.
Was your station featured on the documentary? The BBC documentary.
Yeah, Saving Lives at Sea.
Yes.
Oh, when was that?
I thought your station, because I remember they went to a London one, and I went, "Oh, Petra, they got a London one."
Yeah, so
It was your one.
Yeah,
Is this still on iPlayer?
It might be, in fact, it was repeated on BBC Two the other night. Do you know there was that Match of the Day thing with Gary Lineker?
Oh yeah.
I think they showed, because there was
You covered their asses.
We basically bailed them out. Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah,
But
There's 4 series.
it's
on iPlayer.
fantastic.
I think
They cut between different stations, don't they?
There's 7. Oh wow.
I think there's like 7 seasons. But
7. You're right.
So Tower's been on it, Gravesend's been on it, Chiswick's been on it. We've been on it a bunch of times. There was
Eastbourne.
one that was Eastbourne. Yeah, there's been one where there was a cat rescue. Have you seen that where we went?
Yes.
That was me. I was the one that got murked off by that sodding cat.
Oh my God! I thought I recognised.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Thought you recognised the panicked eyes.
Yeah, I know that guy. He's a character. Shit. So what was that like filming that?
It's so we've got GoPros and stuff on our lids, really for to capture, because the RNLI is at its basis a publicly funded endeavour. It's completely reliant off public funds. There's no government funding. There's no private equity funding or anything like that. It's basically everything we make goes back into the organisation, and it's all done through fundraising. And part of that fundraising is showing what we do, showing going out to rescue people, showing this and that, and publicising it through shows like Saving Lives at Sea. And then hopefully people will get in their pockets and go, those guys saved my dad's life or my son's life or something, and then we'll give back.
But isn't it mental that it has to be funded through charity donations? Isn't that like
yes and no?
Saving people's lives.
It's an emergency service, yeah, but we'd much rather have it that way.
Really?
Let me give you an example, right? So, all the stuff that's happening in the Channel now, right? Some people are very much for picking up migrants whose boats fail in the middle of the Channel, and these people are drowning.
Oh, you can just cut out the politics, yeah.
We go out and save that. But can you imagine the government receiving pressure from lobbyists saying, "Oh, what are you picking up immigrants for?" And all that. We're a charity, and we're volunteers who give up our time to go and save lives. Now, it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter the colour, the creed, the age, or anything. We don't want anything getting in the way of us being able to go out and save them. We'll bring them back, and then it's up to you. It's up to border control. It's up to whoever else. If you want to
simplify,
you do that. Yeah, you do that. It's all cool. Our job is to just make sure they're alive. And if they're not, to give them medical care, do whatever we can to sort of save them. But as soon as politics comes into play, as soon as there's any sort of government funding, we can't make those decisions because it becomes political.
Sad that's an element that you have to think about, though. You know what I mean? The fact that you go, no, it's easier if we fundraise because politics is that messed up.
Yeah. And it's a really nice thing to do as well. It's community outreach. I mean, so many people don't know that there's lifeboat stations on the Thames, much less that they're the busiest stations in the country.
I wouldn't have guessed they were the busiest, I have to admit.
No.
It's crazy, isn't it? But if you think as a metropolis, London's busy 24/7, 365 days a year. Not everybody's going for a swim on Brighton Beach every day of the year, or if they do, they probably know what they're doing for the most part.
Yeah.
So
have you lifeboated in other parts, or has it always just been London?
It's always been the Thames. Yeah, it's always been the Thames, just because if you are lifeboating, so as I was saying before about the pager, if you're in Totnes or if you're in Exmouth or any of those places, sort of wherever you are coastally, you've got to be about a 5-minute drive or a certain catchment area near the lifeboat station. Because if they paged me and said, we need to launch the boat from Eastbourne, I'm like, right, well, I'll be there in about an hour and 45 minutes. So they've got to be people that work and live by the lifeboat station.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, living in London, that's not really something I can do. I'd love to if I lived coastally.
It would be lovely to live 5 minutes from Chiswick, the Thames, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, nice. Yeah.
What?
Sorry to interrupt the pod. I hope you're enjoying it. But just wanted to tell you that we have a Patreon page you can join if you're enjoying what we do. And you can get even more of us. Oh, can you imagine? So as little as £3 a month, you can get early access to podcasts, behind the scenes bits and bobs. We post pics and videos of what we're up to. There's even an opportunity to come on the show, if that's what you fancy. There's access to our Discord channel where the serious chatter biscuits gather and chat nonsense. It's basically a really lovely community of idiots like us, and I'm guessing probably like you. So if you fancy that, go to patreon.com/chatterbix. Now, enjoy the rest of the pod.
Patreon, give it to me. Patreon, I need it, girl. Patreon, give it to me. Patreon, I need it, girl.
I've got a really stupid question.
Go on.
Doesn't matter. Do you think there's anyone in the history of the Thames has fallen in and been dragged along the river and out to sea?
No.
You can't do that.
No, I mean, it's because by the
That's one
time
of the
you
best questions.
I saw you
ever
losing
asked.
confidence in your eyes.
Yeah, it sort of waiting.
No.
Yes.
At the end.
I appreciate you giving the question time.
Look, the
You don't
short-
have to, by the way. You
I'm
do
just
not have-
imagining just doing that for 2 hours. And,
Yeah.
And how
See, the
bleak
thing
it
is, because the tide changes every sort of few hours, it's roughly 4 in, 8 out, or 8 and 4.
Yeah.
By the time you travel 4 hours down the river, the tide's turned and you're coming back in. So, no,
Okay.
not really from Chiswick. But I enjoyed the question.
It's not a bad little question, is
No,
it? It's a
it was-
super little question. I've got
It-
another one. How many bodies are there in the Thames?
I would imagine an awful lot. I would
Fucking
imagine an awful
hell.
lot.
I've heard that it's a fact. That's one of those horrible London facts. isn't
What?
it?
Yeah.
What?
There's
See,
bodies in the
because
Thames.
so the Thames, when you look at it, is sort of a bit. When you come into London, you look at the Thames. It's a bit browny. It looks a bit muddy. It's not. Believe it or not, it isn't the cleanest river in the world. It's not as bad as it used to be. But that's not dirt. That's mud. So the bottom of the river is all silty and muddy. And of course, when the tide turns, it churns all that up. So it always looks a bit brown. But if you were to take a glass, like a pint, and just sort of scoop out the Thames and just put it on the side, after about 45 minutes, all that silt would settle and the water would look fairly clear and there'd be a bit of mud at the bottom. Now, the problem is the bottom's all silt. So if somebody's gone down over the years, that's just been silted over. And then, of course, somebody else went down and then that got silted over. And we're going back hundreds of years. I mean, London was settled around the Thames. So for millennia, for as long as you can imagine, there's probably been people dumping stuff in there, bodies, guns, and all the rest of it. And,
What
yeah,
have you
so-
found? What have you found?
have you ever heard of Asda? So some of their beautiful
yes.
shopping trolleys, some of their wonderful
We're
shopping
hoping to get some of their sweet advert
Oh, nice.
coin at some point.
Yeah.
What's the best thing? Have you ever found anything said, Roger, look what I've just found?
I found a radio that was worth about 185 quid and put it up on river accounts on Facebook. Anybody lost this radio? Tried to track down the owner and all the rest of it, and then nobody did. So I
Where
stuck
did you
it on
find
eBay.
the radio on the bottom? What, floating on the river?
So as in, it was in the mud on the foreshore. When the tide went out, it exposed this radio that was
Was it
stuck
still
upright in the
working?
mud. It was still because they're waterproof.
That's a hell of a bloody radio.
Hell of a product. Yeah.
Honestly, whoever made that radio, fair play.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I tried to find its owner, and then when we couldn't, we stuck it up on eBay and gave the money back to the station.
Oh,
But about 185 quid radio. So that was a nice little touch. But people make livings, believe it or not. Like further down the river in town, you get what are called mudlarkers. So they're basically walking up and down
Isn't
the foreshore.
Johnny Vaughan a mudlarker? Johnny Vaughan's a...
Oh, isn't he? I didn't know that. Yeah,
I think
could
so.
be.
and what they do?
So when the tide goes out, areas of foreshore, they look like beaches. In fact, do you know where the Oxo building is?
Yes.
Joe, Johnny Vaughan's done a series called Mud Men, and it's all about this on the Thames.
Oh,
There you
yes,
go. Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've ever been taken up the Oxo Tower,
Yeah, I wonder what you're going to say there.
That's
Yeah,
what she
That's
said.
what she said. Taking up the old tower.
Yeah.
Cool. I wish.
But it's a nice
You
Saturday night for
lifeboat
someone.
guys. You're the worst.
That's great, the Oxo Tower.
Better than getting taken up the Shard. Anyway, right by, for one example, right by where that Oxo Tower is, sea containers, it dries out there. It looks like almost the beach.
Yeah.
So when the tide goes out, it exposes that area of foreshore. And on the other side as well, it's fairly rocky. And you get people, professionals, who make good livings out of finding coins, like Roman coins, doubloons, jewels,
I'd love to do that.
all the rest of it. It's really interesting. You have to get a license. You have to go to the PLA to get a license, the Port of London Authority. But you can look it up online and maybe give Johnny Vaughan a ring, get some tips on where to find stuff. They go along with metal detectors and stuff.
Yeah, and there's those magnet fishermen.
Joe, this is right up your Strasser.
Yeah.
Mudlarks.
Right, I know what I'm doing later.
Mudlarking, yeah.
Here's another question. I'm walking along the Thames. I'm looking at the Thames. How deep is it?
So it really varies. I mean, if just for example, say it's low tide, we've got parts of our patch that go down to maybe 1.5 feet. So really, really shallow in places. And then the commercial part, so maybe around Tower Bridge, you go down to sort of 15, 20 meters at times. So it runs a gambit from really deep to not very deep and everything in between.
What's Elton John like?
He is.
I just wanted to throw the listeners. What? What's he asked that for? You'll find out.
He is absolutely hilarious, like really funny.
Hang
really
on, we've got
funny.
to explain to the listeners.
No, let's not. Let's talk for 5 minutes about Elton John and then explain, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's really, really funny, sharp as a tack.
Talking about the depth of the
One of the
Thames.
best lifeboatmen I've ever worked with.
And he's super talented, and he can rig up a boat like no man's business.
Oh, flip.
So, right, let's explain what that.
I mean, can we jump about?
Yeah,
because I feel like I'm finished with. Yeah, we are where we are now. But yeah, you're a musician, aren't you, Mark?
I am. My day job is a freelance musician, or what like it was called a session musician back in the olden days.
God, you must be bloody good.
I'm all right. Yeah, I do all right.
What do you play?
I play drums. Yeah.
Oh.
So I do drums and percussion, and I play a little bit guitar and a little bit of bass. Not really
I bet
much.
you play that well.
But yeah, it's all right. But there are people that do that sort of stuff much better than I do. But my main job is I play the drums. So I play on albums and stuff. So like U2, for example, they're a band. So when they go out on tour, they go out as a band. When they make records, they go out as a band. But people like Elton John or Tom Jones or Ed Sheeran, when they're in the studio making music, they need musicians to play on their albums. And when they tour, they need musicians to tour with them. And that's what I do. And you are
the best guest we've ever had.
Best guest we've ever had. Oh,
honestly,
thanks very much. Yeah. Well, it's and
we can flip flop between Elton John and Chiswick seamlessly.
And Mudlarkers.
Both wildly middle class and white. So there you go.
When did you start? When did you pick up the drumsticks?
So there are really nice stories that I've formulated over the years, but the actual truth is we went on a holiday, to our first family holiday to Greece. And we were staying at a place that had club reps and there was a children's club. And the guy who did all the best activities was the head of the children's club. All the girls fancied him. All the boys wanted to be him. He played drums in the house band. So every night after dinner, you'd go in to watch the cabaret or the show or whatever. And he was playing drums. And one night, this kid, who was younger than I was, he must have been like 10 or 11 years old, got up and played. They were like, oh, there's a young lad in the audience who plays drums. He's going to get up and sit in. He's going to play My Girl, that song, the Temptation song. And he went and played it. And everybody just lost their shit. And it was like, oh, my God, he's so good. And I just looked around at my mum and was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. That's amazing. That's brilliant. And at the time, for some reason, I wanted to play the trombone just because I thought it sounded funny. And yeah, after that, I came back, I bought a pair of drumsticks, got donated a drum pad, and my parents bought me a snare drum and were like, if you're serious about this, we'll buy you a kit. But that was it. Yeah, it was in Greece, and it was because the holiday rep
because of the
was cool.
coolest man you'd ever seen in your life. I wonder what he's doing now.
Before then and since, I've never seen anybody.
I don't think you get much cooler than.
Do you think anyone can learn it then?
Yeah, there's no question. Yeah.
No.
I try and do that thing in drum where you add something, and I'm out. Can't do it.
So right, take your right hand and your right foot at the same time and play them together. Just hit them together.
What?
So just go like this.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant foot on hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're playing your foot and your right hand at the same time, and now just play your hands together without your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do it again. So it goes boom, ba, boom, ba, and that's a drum beat. I mean, it's really as easy as that. And then the next stage,
you sort of lost me a little bit. I don't genuinely.
Was it right? Was it that?
I can't get my head round. You're at the back of the stage or wherever you are, and you're keeping everyone in time.
Yeah, that's it. But it's literally that thing I just showed you. So right foot and right hand together, and then two hands together. That's it. And then you add a bit more. You might put another beat in, or you might put a bit more on the bass drum, or it might be slower or faster. But really, that governs the tempo of the whole band. So what everybody's listening to.
Is it the coolest as well?
It's without doubt, I reckon it's the coolest.
Yeah. Just double check.
What instrument?
Yeah, I think
well,
so.
looks the coolest when you're giving it the old. What's the Muppets guy? Animal,
yeah. So it's really difficult to look cool playing, the sousaphone or the trombone or something like that. But drums, it's hot and sweaty, and there's lots of physical motion. There's sticks are moving around here.
Can you do the chuck up in the air and catch it?
Chucking up in the air, spinning the stick, setting yourself on fire, all that fun stuff.
Oh, and then
you must be amazing at it though. If you're if people need you in the studio, you must be very, very good.
I'm all right, but I suppose I am, but I've worked really hard at it, but not really.
Yeah, we all have, mate.
I don't.
We all have, mate.
I don't. It's paying your dues. You don't only think about comedy or funniness or whatever it is when you're on a gig, right? It's just in you, and you care about it all the time, and you pay your dues. You start working circuits, and you go to open mic nights or comedy nights or whatever, and then it gets bigger and people notice you, and you get breaks, and then you go along for the ride with someone else. It's the same with music. It's the same with drums. I was obsessed. So I would come home from school in my lunch break. So I used to have to travel 20 minutes to school, 20 minutes back. I'd travel 20 minutes to school, just play the drums for 20 minutes, and then get back on the bus to go to school.
No.
I was obsessed. I just wanted to play it all the time.
That's a different level, isn't it?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. It was bizarre. Yeah. And then sooner or later somebody says, such and such is looking for a drummer for his band. So on a Wednesday night, I'd be in a garage band playing Pulp and Radiohead songs and Oasis covers and Beatles covers with my mates in a garage band. And then on Tuesday night, I'd be in the local town brass band just because I wanted to play. I didn't care what music it was.
You're doing what you wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah. So every night of the week I was out playing. And then sooner or later somebody goes, oh, he needs a band. And then, you're in London and the gigs are a bit bigger and people trust you to do a good job. And if you're not a complete pain in the arse, you'll do it.
What was the first biggie where you thought, hold on, this could be a job?
Well, I went to university and I was going to study law. And
you're the full package. Law.
You want to see my work?
Nothing.
Oh, anything you can't do, fella. Can you do a pod?
I'm really bad.
Have you got a mid-table pod? Have you got dwindling numbers on your pod? We haven't. No, we haven't.
I'm really bad at walking in a straight line and all sorts of stuff. There's plenty of stuff I'm terrible.
You're at uni and you were going to do law.
Well, I was at uni. I was going to do law, but it was a 5-year course. It was 4 years of the degree, and then if you wanted to be anything interesting, like a litigator or a barrister or something like that, then you'd have to take the bar, which is an extra year. And I was 6 months in, and I was sort of saying to my folks, like, I want to sort of play the drums, and they were so supportive. They were like, well, look, you're sort of playing the drums anyway. Just do a different course. So I did English, ended up doing English and drama, and which was only 3 years. And I was basically paying my way through uni, paying like the halls off by doing gigs, weddings and bar gigs and bar mitzvahs and anything really that would pay. And it was a case of leaving uni, and then I was kind of doing it anyway, just sort of barely able to stay afloat, obviously, at the very beginning. Lived off baby food for a little while and stuff like that. And then my first gig, I suppose, with Natasha Bedingfield. Do you remember Natasha Bedingfield, David's sister? So I did that. And then the guy who was a musical director on that, when that finished, I left that, and her brother's band came over. Was like, oh, I'm going on to this other thing. There's this girl group, are you around on these dates? And I was like, yeah, I am. Yeah. And then I met the bass player on that girl group, and he was like, well, I'm doing this recording for this thing, and you'd be great for it because it's right up your street. It's the sort of music you're into and all that. I was like, great. And then I knew somebody else, and then you do something else for somebody, or you do recording and people talk and are like, have you heard this album? It's great. It's like, oh yeah, Mark Pusey did the drums on that. Oh, well,
really?
I'll get him to do my thing. There's no real agent.
Beautiful.
There's no real agents. There are sort of agents for some bits, and you didn't put an advert in the Evening Standard going a drummer for hire or anything. At this level, it's all really word of mouth because there's so much more to it than just doing the gig. So you can't be a pain in the arse. I mean, I don't know how I've gotten away with it because I'm generally a pain in the arse, but you're on stage for an hour a day, and then 23 hours of that day you're on a tour bus, or you're in catering, or you're with management. And if you're the guy, so I won't mention the artist, but there was a drummer who was one of my favorite drummers. When I was a kid, I used to sneak into jazz clubs to watch him play because I was under 18. I used to sneak in to watch him play and then sneak out before the end of the set. He was doing a gig, and I got a call from the music director on that gig saying, can you come and do a few shows on this gig? And I was like, yeah, but one of my favorite drummers, this guy's doing it. I used to sneak into jazz clubs to watch him play. Like, what do you mean? He's doing that gig and he's amazing. What do you want me for? And they were like, well, just get here and we'll tell you all about it. So I ended up doing this gig, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I was like, you need to tell me why you're not using this guy anymore. He's one of my favorite drummers. He's one of the best drummers in the world. And they were like, oh yeah, on stage he was great. But you'd finish the gig, and it'd be like, why is the bus leaving now? And can we turn the air conditioning on? It's broiling in here. And why are there cucumbers in these sandwiches? Everything off the stage. He was an absolute pain in the ring piece. So they got rid of him. It doesn't sort of matter how well you do the job because there are other people that can do that job.
I love that because I think I can be like wallpaper. I could be invisible. So I love the idea. It's not just being good, it's being nice.
It's being nice. It goes. Okay,
the least rock and roll story I've ever heard, and that's what I want to hear,
mate. But
exactly
say you had to pick a crew of people to go away with on a TV shoot or a comedy shoot. Are you going to pick the very best people in the world who you don't know, or are you going to pick people who are really fucking good and who are your mates?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's it. That's the same. That's how the Masons work, right? It's just a network of people who can do the job, who you trust. It's like, and that's the way the world goes round. It's, oh, you should get this guy. I saw him at this thing, and he's a really nice bloke, and he's fucking good because obviously he's doing that job. So, and that's it. That's literally it.
Oh, my wife's.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're right, just recording a podcast.
Sorry.
Well, you don't seem sorry.
Yeah, you're still here.
I've got a question for you, Mark. David, we've got a postman issue. I want to run this past you. David's got an office at the bottom of his house, right?
Right.
So where his office is there. So the main chunk of his house is above his office. But the postman occasionally... So, David, how big's your office? About 7 foot to where you are, maybe? From the door?
From the door to here?
Yeah.
20 foot?
20 foot. Sorry, 20 foot. And the postman occasionally...
Thank God you're not an estate agent.
Well, good point. I've only been there once, in my defence.
Okay.
And the postman comes in and puts the post on David's desk.
Yeah, so I'm working here.
What?
And he'll come through the door.
Yeah.
He'll walk. It'll take 2 seconds to walk here. So there's a bit of... And he'll go, there you go, mate. And he'll, thanks very much. And then he'll...
Thoughts,
That's
Mark?
weird, isn't it?
What do you think about that, Mark? What about if your milkman came in as we were chatting and said, there's a pint of skim milk for you there, Mark?
Yeah, it's a bit of gold top.
I collect the money on Friday. Bye, mate. Have a good
A
pod.
bit weird, isn't it?
Do you know what? It's a real dilemma because it's obviously weird. It's a real infringement of your personal space. But at the same time, like, if he comes to but what would be weirder, that, or if he came to the door and just sort of put his hand over the threshold and just dropped it on the floor? And
I'll take that.
mate.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I think he should
I'd
do
expect
neither.
that.
No, neither.
Yeah, knock on. Oh yeah, 1 second.
Yeah.
Be normal.
Does he? Hang on a minute. Is the door open?
No, it's shut.
So he lets himself in.
Yeah,
That's
he
weird.
lets himself
That's
in.
weird.
It's fucking weird.
That's weird.
It's quite glass. There's a lot of glass, so you can see in. But the car's in the way and stuff, so it's not like.
Yeah, no, he's made a decision to enter my space. That's what she said.
See, that's why I wanted to learn the trombone. That would have been perfect.
We think he thinks David's like the receptionist, in an office block.
Yeah.
And basically goes, thanks, mate.
Sorry, can you give this to David, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a really weird dilemma.
The postman's walking in. The postman's walking in. He opens my door and walks into my room, yeah. The postman's walking in. I might be working, I might be playing a tune, yeah. The postman's walking in. I could be on Twitch. Why are you walking? Why are you walking into my room? The postman's walking in. You've got no right. You've got no right, sonny boy. The postman's walking in. Do you realize this is my office? The postman's walking in. Do you care? This is my office space. The postman's walking in.
Mark, I've got some drummer questions. Sorry, I want to make the most of you here.
Go on.
I've got like maybe 5 rattling around my brain at the moment, but the first one is, according to you, who is technically the best drummer ever?
I mean, if you asked me in an hour, it would be different. But my absolute all-time favourite was a bloke called Carlos Vega, and he was a studio musician in Los Angeles, and he played with James Taylor, and he played with Linda Ronstadt. Basically, if you put on Heart or Magic or Smooth now, it will be one of 3 or 4 drummers. Yeah,
I am that guy.
Right. So it'll be one of 3 guys that play all that stuff. Probably Jeff Porcaro, Carlos, maybe Hal Blaine or Jim Keltner or one of those guys, John Robinson. But Carlos was my absolute favourite. But also, there's a list of them. There's like the top 3 or 4 would be Carlos Vega, Jeff Porcaro. Jeff Porcaro used to play in a band called Toto.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Toto.
Weren't they all session musicians? Toto?
Exactly. Yeah. So they were all session cats, and Jeff was like the biggest session guy in the world at that stage, and he also, with his session buddies, was in Toto. But Ringo Starr. I mean, so all of the best drummers in the world now, all of my heroes, the guys that I look up to, were all watching the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 when Ringo played with the Beatles, and they all had that moment that I had, where they turned around to their mums and was like, "Mum, I want to do that. Look at that. That's wicked."
What was he doing that was different?
Well, it was the Beatles. It was rock, and they had long hair and they had great tunes, and it was.
Why over the years have people looked down their nose at Ringo? What does he do?
Because I don't get it. Because I don't get it. Because it's. I mean, there are loads of drummer jokes, and some of them are brilliant. Like how do you know when there's a drummer at your door? Because the knocking speeds up. What's the best way for a drummer to get fire from a band? Tell the songwriter, I've written a song. You want to hear it? All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then the better you get, and the better standard of gigs, people appreciate the drummers more. It's usually the first thing to go down in a record session. They're the anchor. They're driving the ship, so to speak. Just to give you some boating metaphors, bring it full circle. Yeah. There you go.
Synergy.
That's it. Synergy. So And Ringo was Thomas the Tank Engine, and he kind of sounds a little bit like that, a little bit slow. Sorry, Liverpool, that was a terrible impression. But so he gets the he gets the brunt of it because he didn't write the songs. He's not Lennon and McCartney. So they're like, oh, he was just a hanger on. But the parts that he came up with, I could sit behind a drum kit now if there was one nearby and play something, and you'll be like, oh, that sounds like Come Together, or that sounds like Strawberry Fields, or that sounds like Ticket to Ride. And for a drummer, given that they don't have a tuned instrument, they just got beats they can play. For a drummer to come up with something that inventive and that unique, those parts, it's just so bonkers. I spend my life doing sessions, and on album sessions, they're like, right, what can I play that isn't just boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba? What will make it a little bit interesting, a little bit inventive? And Ringo, song after song after song after song, came up with this inventive stuff that didn't get in the way, that was properly groovy, and that enhanced the song, made it sound better. And he inspired generations of people. So Ringo was one of the best drummers that ever lived in my life.
I know nothing about music, but
come on, mate.
I know a lot about music. If you haven't heard the pod, I am a bit of a guru.
You know enough, son.
I know enough. So when you go in a session as a drummer, what do you just got like a blank page and you go, they might play you a bit of the song. Though. What would you put underneath that? Or do they have an idea? Or
it absolutely is. It could be utterly anything.
Terrifying.
One from, so you do a movie soundtrack. You like one of the Harry Potter movies. That you go in there. There's an orchestra with 88
You did Harry Potter.
We played some percussion on the last one. Yeah. But have done like soundtracks to, we've just done in the last few months. I've been away with Ed on tour, but before that there's a new movie.
Ed Sheeran. You've been away with Ed Sheeran.
Actually, I must ring him.
Yeah. Let's give him a ring.
I've fallen out with him.
I need that tenner back.
Yeah.
So in like November, December, when I was home, we did a movie called Argyle, which has got Henry Cavill in, the Superman guy. That's like a James Bondy kind of movie. And we did Wicked. There's a new movie that Ariana Grande and Jeff Goldblum are in, the soundtrack to that. Did Back to Black, a new movie about Amy Winehouse. And you go into these sessions and there might be an orchestra there of 88 people and you're watching the movie on the screen and you're basically playing along. Now, if everybody's just making up what they want, it's going to sound like a car crash. So in those particular scenarios, you get written music, you get manuscript that you have to follow exactly because everybody needs to be literally and figuratively on the same page. But then you might go into an album session for an artist who just got signed and they've written a song, they've written a demo, and it's just a rough thing on the guitar. And they're like, oh yeah, we want to put the band on this. So what would you play to this? And then you come up with some ideas. You're like, well, it's nice.
Is that the most fun?
I love both of them. I love how challenging the reading part is. That's really cool for me. And I also love the creativity, the other stuff. But then again, I've been in studios with artists where they've got a demo together and they've got some rough drums that they've programmed or they've just tapped a table. And you go in and you're like, do you know what? What you've played really suits the song. So I'm not going to change a thing. And everything in between, you might go, do you know what you've played is awful. Or somebody's like, oh, I came up with this idea, and they're very precious about it. So you've got to be respectful and play what they've written. And then other times you're like, do you know what? Would you mind if I just have a go? Because I've got something in my head that you haven't heard that you might really like. So you end up playing something, they're like, oh my God, that fits. And a lot of the time they come up with these bonkers adjectives and stuff, people that don't speak drums, because it's very, very different. There might be a singer-songwriter who goes, oh, do you know the bridge to this song? I imagine it like really yellow and flowery. And you're
I'd know what to do in that situation.
You would, yeah. Oh, well, hopefully me too. Like you think, okay, yellow and flowery.
Hand, foot, leg.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But you think to yourself like, right, okay, well, there's no drums that sound flowery, but what you probably mean is something bright and colourful and airy and yeah.
Not that. No, not that.
Some sort of pseudo jazz scat. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about? Yeah. You've worked with Elton John.
Yeah.
When you work with him, could you see why he's become sort of iconic? What's special about him?
He's brilliant. He's a fantastic songwriter. Over the years, he's obviously, but everybody can witness that because he's had so much success, and he's driven, and he's an amazing piano player. I mean, I know it's a bit sort of at times honky tonk, and he's got his own style and all the rest of it, But he's a classically trained pianist, and he's exceptionally great at playing piano. And musically as well, he's just a bit of an icon. He's a bit of a G. You know, he's a character. He's flamboyant. He's funny. He's quick, and he's sharp, and he's funny, and he's cutting and brilliant.
Mark, you're an amazing musician, obviously. Can you sort of understand or work out how he's written so many hits?
No, I can't. No, I don't. So I write songs with mates, and you noodle about on it, but there's something so magical about having something from nothing. So if somebody comes to me and goes, I need drums on this, or this movie needs drums, that's all great and all very well and good. But to sit there with a guitar or a piano and just come up with something that never existed before, that boggles my mind. And to do that once or twice, to be a one-hit wonder, that's one thing.
Yeah,
but then to be
doing it.
I mean, to do like Paul McCartney started from the 60s till now. He's been in bands, he's had number ones, he's been solo artist, he's headlined Glastonbury like that. How are you still doing that? It's obviously not a fluke. You're not a one-hit wonder, but
yeah.
How
do you keep writing songs that connect with everyone?
I've got no
bizarre.
idea. And yeah. Ed is the contemporary of that. I really think he's so exceptionally good. Like the amount of people that come up to me and go, "Oh, thinking out loud, that was our wedding dance," or "Perfect was playing when we got engaged," or whatever else. And he's hit that zeitgeist of wedding songs, Perfect, and he's got songs about it, firstborn, becoming a parent for the first time, and about loss, and about love, and about everything. And there's a song he wrote for his friend Michael Gudinski, who was one of his Australian promoter, called "Visiting Hours," which countless people have subsequently said to me, "Oh, we played that at my granddad's funeral, or this funeral, or that funeral," and it's not cynical. He hasn't gone, "Do you know what I need to write is a good funeral song," or "Do you know what I need to write is a good love song?" He's written these because he's been through those experiences, and the way he talks about it and expresses it is through song, and their experiences that have happened to him. And it just so happens that he's got such a common touch, if you like, that people go, "Oh my God, me too. I know exactly what he means. I've been through that." Or he's put that grief or that loss in words. It's a beautiful melody, and I'm going to listen to that and remember my whoever. It's absolutely bonkers. I can't fathom it. But when I find out, I'll let you know. But I don't think I ever will.
I spoke to a studio engineer not long ago, and he was chatting about all the people he's worked with, and we started talking about all the arseholes he's worked with.
Did you get quite quickly to there? Did you go, "Who's an arsehole?" Yeah, I thought you would.
Listen, cut the shit. Tell me about the arseholes.
Yeah. This is all well and good, mate.
Annoyingly, I can't put it out, but he said, bleep this, James. He said, this person, for people, like engineers, have to be paid double to work with them because he's that much of a nightmare. And it's... Do
you know what? I mean, if that's getting bleeped out, then I've met that person, and they are probably one of the most exceptional vocalists I've ever seen in the flesh. They are insane in terms of tuning, in terms of melody, in terms of tone and pitch and everything. They are so exceptional, but I understand why he said that.
Really? And do you know the other person he said?
Joe Wilkinson. Oh, really? Really? Yeah. Wow. Okay. Oh, my mum will be terribly upset if she hears that.
I like how up to date these references are.
Yeah, I know. So that person that we bleeped out, what is it about them in that environment that makes them tricky?
I couldn't tell you, because being a freelancer, like I said, it's important for you not to be an arsehole. So as
I
much
agree
as
with
I'm
that
thinking,
in any situation, really.
Of course, you've got to be.
Just don't.
Like, he must be incredibly talented, this person. For the career to continue.
Wildly talented, and like I say, he's got the chops as well. He is an exceptional vocalist, exceptional in every possible way. It can range from anything from having a bad day to having an engine to having something in his brain that he's like, I want it to sound like this, and the engineer set it up the way he normally sets it up, and the person in question is going, "What are you doing? That's not what I want."
Yeah.
And it's really difficult and doesn't have the emotional intelligence to, articulate what he wants, or it could be that he's just a bit of a prick.
So it could
Do
be
you know who's-
either or.
And do you know the other guy, the other person he said is an absolute delight?
Go on. I can believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for like having a career that's gone on for 60 years,
Yeah.
and
Well, you
people.
whittle it down to who it is now.
Yeah. That's it.
I have a friend called Pete who's knows his music, and whenever he starts talking about session musicians, I get so excited.
Oh yeah,
because they're the unknown. Yeah, because you've played on tracks, popular, iconic tracks that you just go, no one knows you did it.
Yeah, you're walking down the street.
I find it
going,
so exciting.
I might be on that thing you're listening to.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know what the absolute buzz is when you're going around a supermarket or B&Q or somewhere like that, and other DIY stores are available. You're walking around, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I think I played drums on this.
Yeah.
And it will be something that you're like, or you're listening to the radio.
Tall speakers.
Yeah. Or you're listening to
Second best song ever made.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Loved it.
Second best song ever made.
Oh, so what's the next drumming job you've got?
So
up?
we're on a world tour with Ed Sheeran at the
Oh,
moment.
wow, you're still on it.
Yeah, so we're going basically making our way around the world. We did 9 months of Europe last year.
How tiring is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's downtime, but you get, so for example, like last year, because of Brexit, I don't want to bring it up and get political, but you can only do 90 days in Europe at a time in every 180. It doesn't matter if you've got visas. It doesn't matter anything. You're only allowed in for 90 days. And of course, because of the size of Ed's shows, they're all stadium shows. You can only do so many gigs where, between each show, it takes 5 days to pack up the gear, take it to a new stadium and set it up again. So
5 days to pack it up.
It's massive. And take it to a new stadium and set it up again. It's a massive endeavor. And so all that time, all the crews, 90 days are getting eaten away. So we're basically going to have to do Europe in over the course of 3 years or thereabouts, 2 years. So we did Europe and the UK and Ireland last year. This year and then we had 3 months off over Christmas. And then in January, we went to New Zealand and Australia, and we got back just under a week ago. And we've got 6 or 7 weeks off, and then we go to the United States for 5 months.
Wow. What a crazy life you've got.
Yeah. But then, I don't always tour. 2017 was the last big tour I did. And since then it's really been studio work and, album stuff and theatre stuff and, small UK tours and stuff like that, because world tours haven't really been happening since the beginning of COVID. And now that they're back again, it's back out on that. So I'm sort of taking it easy I've got some recording stuff. I did some recording last week, and I've got some this week and some next week, and some film soundtrack bits, and then yeah. But I'm sort of trying to take it easy and be around for family and all the rest of it. While I'm here, and then back out for 5 months in.
So you're squeezing in RNLI stuff as well at the moment.
And that's it. And like I was saying before, the beauty of it being 24-hour shifts is, or sorry, 12-hour shifts is, I know my diary at the moment. So I know that I'm going to be around for 6 weeks, so I can book in a bunch of shifts. So yeah, I'm there.
Is it the same people that you were, well, like if you go away for 6 months, you come back and you go, who's this lot?
Yeah. Some of the crew, I mean, that station's been going for just over 20 years, and some of the guys have been there for 20 years. There are new recruits because, people move out of London, or people ebb and flow, or they have kids and they find out that they can't volunteer the same amount of time that they always used to, or whatever reason. It chops and changes, but yeah, there are always familiar faces there for sure.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, ask away.
We're going back to Elton John. But I'm never ever going to play an instrument in a studio with Elton John, so I really want to know what it feels like. You've never met him before. The first time you meet him, you've never met him before. You're in the studio. He walks in. He's written Rocket Man, blah 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 blah. You then have to play the drums for the first time in front of him for a new tune of his. How are you feeling?
All right. I mean, it's weird. It's because sometimes you get imposter syndrome, like, oh God, I'm not supposed to be here. And I think anybody with any sort of artistic or creative bent gets that. But then you have to sort of put yourself together and go, I'm good at this. That's why I'm here. They haven't called me in because I'm a bit shit. You know, they've called me in because they think I'm the right man for the job. So let's prove them right. And you do it. And you just, and you,
Lovely attitude.
with humility, you know, you're like, I'm going to listen. I'm just going to get big ears on and I'm going to have a listen. And again, it's so much of it is emotional intelligence. If you're playing something that you think is great and they're looking around at you going, well, it's probably not working. So just change it up a bit. Just try everything and be honest and communicate. And you'll run a track down and it might go really well. You might be first take and they might go, yeah, it sounded great, guys. That's fantastic. Or they might go, oh, do you know what? The drums are a bit busy or a bit lively, or, you know, it needs something a bit stronger, or the rhythm's not right. And you're humble enough and have enough humility to go, what do you need to hear from me? And you adjust it accordingly. You know, it's a conversation. It's never, you know, there's plenty of dick waving that goes on in the music business, but in terms of a session thing, I want people to come out of the experience, you know, having hired me or working with them, to go, oh, nice bloke, and, you know, did a really good job and actually gave a shit, you know. And that's what you got to do. You've got to give a shit. You've got to make sure that it doesn't, you can call me terrible. What I just played could be terrible. Call it out, say it's terrible. So long as we get to what you want, that's done, and I'm happy. And I feel okay about putting the invoice in if you're happy with it, you know. So it's just about having the emotional intelligence to want to do a good job, and, you know, like I say, everybody gets racked with imposter syndrome and, oh God, big red light's going to go on. Am I going to fuck this up? You know, when you're filming, I bet you go for takes and in between like corpsing and that, I bet, you know, you get a line wrong 3 times and, you know, all of a sudden the second AD sort of looks out from over his thing, or the script supervisor goes, no, mate, it's hello, how are you?
Right, mate. Okay, Mark.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know they do. I know they do.
You've heard what I've heard, then, have you?
Yeah.
Everyone's heard that David doesn't listen to line guys. Yeah.
But it's exactly the same deal. It's like, you want to do a really good job and you want to have fun doing it, and you want everybody there to go, do you know what the best thing in my job is being asked back, is doing a session with a producer and then all going home and going, God, I think that was all right. And then it comes out on the radio or whatever, it doesn't, maybe, or what happens. And then 6 weeks later, your phone rings and it's them. Oh, are you around to do another one of these? And you're like,
now you're cock of the walk.
Yeah,
exactly,
now you're
right.
cock of the walk. Yeah,
that's right. Because somebody going, it's all very well and good getting a gig and doing it, but making a career out of it and having longevity out of it and being asked back by people, that's enough to make you feel like, oh, they've got confidence in what I did a good job last time, so they've asked me back. Yeah, I didn't insult anybody or their wives or anything, and I did a good job and didn't stink or you know, whatever else. It's that's the key.
I've absolutely loved this.
Yeah, so have I.
I've got to say as well, like, and not blowing smoke or anything, but I think the funniest moments that my 2 of my best mates, Steve and Ben, have probably said maybe twice a day for the last however many years, 8 years. Every time we go to the bathroom, it's like, how is your ass? Shot to shit. I think the amount of times I said that, and
I'm glad we've left that with on planet.
my arsehole's got no latch.
Fucking hell! Just got Twitter. Yeah.
The amount of times. I'm talking like in conversation.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in conversation. The amount of times that's come out, and the funniness, and you know, people are kind, and you know, so like, oh, I learned to play drums to this, or you were on this, and it made my son want to play the drums. Just doing that is just really, like, without being too cheesy about it all, it's really like humbling, and it's like, oh, really? What? That was an afternoon for me.
Yeah,
you know, it was just going to work, and it's either got somebody into music, or it's got somebody into comedy, or idiots in the pub are reciting these lines.
I'm really hoping someone's kid hasn't got into it due to how's your arsehole.
Yeah, a broken rectum.
But it's really nice. It's the nicest thing about being able to do this stuff that you know, that people are like, it makes a real difference, and it's ridiculous because it's going to make somebody's day. You know, they quote something from a TV show, or they, you know, or whatever, and it's like, oh, that was me. That was great.
Yeah,
That's
that's lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
just cheer them up, isn't it? You know.
I love that you've laid down these iconic drum tracks and pop songs and
We've
and
done
our
that.
contribution to the planet.
It's,
Yeah.
no, it's
I
more
think
than
our
that.
one's
It's
going to
more
be
than that.
deleted before yours. Let's put it that way.
It's more than that. It's more than that. And you know, we did win an
Nice
Oscar
summary, though.
we did win an Oscar for best original motion soundtrack picture, and did win
Did
a
you?
Grammy Award and a Gold Globe. But you know, my arsehole's got no latch.
Exactly. Exactly. And
No.
people loved it.
I want an
Yeah.
Oscar instead of that.
Oh, believe me, I haven't got an
Can
Oscar.
I swap that line for your Oscar?
That's in Elton's house or some shit. That's has nothing to do with me.
Well, thank you, Mark. That was amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. It's
Really
fascinating.
fascinating.
Yeah,
You've got-
thanks
you've
so
got-
much for having me on. It's
No,
good.
thank you. It's thanks for taking time to chat to us
I
about.
can't believe you're the same guy that we were talking about sort of bodies in the Thames about an hour ago.
I'm
Now-
still reeling at the gear change of what's Elton John, because I hadn't twigged. I'd forgotten at that point that. So I was like, "Oh God, David's got the wrong person. Shit,
Yeah.
shit."
Oh, right, really?
Well, no, for half a second, I was like, "What's he doing? What's he doing?"
Oh, nice.
And then I was like,
Nice.
"Oh yes, of course."
Imagine that, just a really stiff lifeboat man. What do you mean, Elton John? What?
Nothing. Anyway, how's it? Yeah,
It suddenly dawned on me again. You do all your music and then you go and save people.
yeah.
Fucking
Well,
bloke you are.
There's a team of us, so it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's team effort. It's as with anything.
Amazing.
it's not just,
And you're humble. God, you've got everything.
yeah. And I'm the cheapest drummer. The cheapest drummer in my price range as well. So it's very it's very
I'd have £10 for that invoice.
yeah.
You're
Well,
worth
maybe
it.
I will. By the way, where do I stick the invoice for this? Is
See you later, Mark.
all right. All the best then.
Picture, mate. Love this picture.
All the best.
All the
Thank
best.
you
You're
so
breaking
much,
up.
Mark. That was honestly
Yes,
brilliant.
thanks a million, mate.
Yeah, absolute
Loved
pleasure.
it.
Thanks for having
Nice
me on.
to meet
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
You too. All the best.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.